Hello everyone, welcome back. I am here today at a very special location. I'm at the C² Social headquarters in Boise, Idaho with some very special guests. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Certainly. I'm Caleb Crail.
And I'm Cassidy Crail. As you can tell, we're brothers and co-founders of the company.
Awesome. And what does C² do?
So we're a full-service marketing company. We specialize in a lot of social media work, but we do kind of soups to nuts, anything that's digital marketing. So we're really excited about the partnership and felt like, the relationship between you and us would be a great one. Obviously for any viewer out there that has researched marketing or is a self-starter in this space, they're probably familiar with Latasha. And so we felt like it would be a great partnership for us to work together on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So can we talk about the partnership? What is it? What can people expect from our content together?
Certainly. Yeah, you'll be seeing Latasha on our YouTube channel and other social content on a weekly basis, which we're really excited about. We really want this, our content and C² University podcast to be educational. It's not to be a sales pitch about C² Social. We want it to be a place where people in the marketing industry, brands, other agencies can come and get an insider glance at our advice, what we've gone through, the landscape, how it evolves, new platforms, just kind of tips and tricks in the industry. So we're excited to get this launched and excited to have you on board.
Yeah, and it's probably a good idea too for you to share a little bit about your background as it relates to the podcast to, C² viewers.
For sure, yeah. So I am a marketer, an online educator, content creator, kind of a little bit of everything. I started my marketing journey probably like a decade ago, working in corporate marketing and worked with nonprofits, things like that. And I started side hustling actually when I was in college, and I was doing a bunch of things and working as a freelancer. And I just started documenting that journey on YouTube, actually. Just documenting my journey moving to Detroit and getting my first job, my first real marketing job. And over time that evolved into my own podcast, the Freelance Friday podcast, the YouTube channel. I now serve a lot of entrepreneurs and freelancers through courses and education. So that's kind of how I got to where I am now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And you got a great following too. I mean, obviously providing such great content to your followers, and excited to do the same for our base as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that education first. That's what I always tell people. Everybody wants to dive into just sell. And that's not how it works. You really do have to nurture your audience, educate your audience. And I think there's more than enough to go around. We don't have to operate out of that scarcity mindset of sell.
Right.
That's really what's built my community, is just serving.
No, I totally agree. I mean, we've realized that over the years too, is the best sales mechanism for us is actually just opening things up as far as an educational piece to our customers. And I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to share whatever special sauce that you have, because it can help elevate other businesses out there. And for us, the more successful small businesses there are out there, the better it is for our company anyway. And so we like to see people succeed and see the value in marketing. And I think that, like you said, there's plenty to go around. And so we want this podcast to be providing value to where anyone that watches it can say, hey, I got something valuable out of it, from a small business, medium business, and even enterprise size as well.
Yeah. So tell everyone out there who doesn't know, and especially my audience, how did C² get started? How did you get to where you are now in this beautiful office? One of two, right?
Yes, yeah. So we're in our headquarters here in Boise, Idaho, and we have our Carlsbad, just north of San Diego, office as well. And the story was really kind of humble beginnings and came about through necessity. Cassidy and I owned a chocolate retail store just outside of Los Angeles, a Rocky Mountain chocolate factory. So chocolatiers, it was definitely a fun store to manage. And our goal, obviously, we understood the importance of marketing and what it plays to grow revenues and make a successful business. And so we turned to marketing solutions for our store, and we're really underwhelmed with the options that were available to us, and especially in the digital space. And so we took it upon ourselves to find a solution and get into the space, even though we didn't have a marketing background. And C² was really built out of from a perspective of the customer in mind, since we were the consumer, and kind of built it in a way that we felt made sense and would be successful. So we've always focused on products that are going to be, number one, drive results for our clients. I mean, when you're putting an investment into marketing, you need a return on that. And so number one, that's our priority. We also wanted to be able to keep customers at the forefront of technology and give great solutions to them and give great customer experience. And it's to any size budget. And you see that sometimes in the marketing space, the customer is everything. That's in our mission statement over here, but only if you spend enough. And you see that in some agencies. We really want that to be across the board for any client. And so over the 10-year journey, we turned 10 years old as a company this year. We've been focused on product development, becoming more of a full-service digital solution for companies of any size, and especially having lower entry points for smaller businesses. It's kind of been our philosophy, and being able to allow any business to have a shot to use marketing in the best-in-class tools. And part of this podcast is, bringing that education to businesses as well, even if they're going to go at it themselves.
Yeah, love that. So this was when you owned the chocolate shop. That was, you say, like 12 years ago-ish?
Yeah, that was about 12 years ago.
What was marketing like back then, especially for like the younger people who have grown up with Instagram and TikTok? What was it? Primarily Facebook, Twitter? What was out then?
This was right in the era where Groupon was like all the rage, and then Living Social came in behind that. But as a retail store, really your options were Valpaks, direct mailers, local radio ads. Digital stuff existed, but it was mostly big firms that would do like programmatic buying. And so that's where for us, there was no option digital other than Groupon. And Groupon had its pitfalls for retailers. And so that's all you think about when you have a small business, is how do I get more customers? And then when you feel like there's not a lot of great options to do it, that's really was the catalyst for us building things.
Yeah.
But it has changed a lot. I mean, it was right when we started the business, it was right when Facebook started monetizing their platform.
Okay.
So even right before that, like our mission was just to try to get businesses on social media, on Facebook.
Yep.
And really at the time, it really wasn't even common for a business to be on Facebook. It was really more just people. Mm-hmm. And so we would try to get their stores or businesses on Facebook and find creative ways to promote it.
Yeah.
Kind of before viral was viral.
Yeah. And now we're almost in 2023, which is wild. So what are some of your predictions, or what are some of the things that you're working on with your customers for their 2023 strategies? Any trends or platforms that you're really interested in right now?
Well, I think there's, again, what's fun about digital is always evolving, and it moves really fast pace. A few things that we're keeping an eye on is Meta. Mm-hmm. Obviously that's been a staple product and platform for us and our clients. But certainly we're excited to see, what some of the shift in focus from Meta, from corporate, if they're going to, I know they've had a lot of challenges with the metaverse, and shareholders not necessarily excited about that. And they've turned their back a bit from the advertising side of their business to focus on the metaverse. So we're really interested to see if this, recent changes that are happening and turmoil in their business is going to shift their focus back towards advertisers and their core model, and helping brands be more successful on their platform, because there's been, quite honestly, there's been a lot of challenges on Meta and not a huge focus on the advertising side. So we're really excited to see that there might be some positive, changes in Meta as an advertising platform. It's still a very successful platform. We recommend our clients doing it.
But things have the game is a little bit different now, because there's so much inventory that businesses have alternatives to Facebook. I mean, a few years back, they kind of treated agencies or businesses like, hey, you have to use us, so it is what it is. Now you've got Netflix that's going to monetize advertising. I mean, they'll probably have 8 million plus hours daily of ad space, and you've got CTV, and you've got all these platforms that are emerging.
Disney Plus
announced that
TikTok.
They're doing ads. TikTok is a competitor. So you're no longer pigeonholed into just Google and Meta like you were in the past. And I think what we're going to find is the additional competition that's out there is going to force these platforms to reevaluate, how they treat their advertisers. I mean, I know TikTok or Twitter is another one that we're interested in just because of the acquisition from Elon Musk. And he's already hinted at the idea of, if I can make my advertisers more successful, then I'll win that share of business. And I think what we'll see is Meta and the others are going to do the same thing, where they're going to have to start treating, businesses and advertisers with a little bit more respect and giving them the tools to be successful, or they're going to lose them to another platform.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a scary time for me as a marketer, but it's a really exciting time. I think with all the new platforms, all the new formats, changes, like you said, with Twitter and other platforms, I think it's going to force people to do a better job, and to make our
competition's good.
Yeah, exactly. Make our customers more successful. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I certainly agree.
Well, we're going to keep a close eye on Twitter. To be honest, in the past, we haven't had a lot of success on Twitter for our customers. We don't typically have the luxury of the clients that spend millions of dollars on brand awareness. Our customers, we're always trying to help them with bottom of funnel strategies. They want, they want to sell more stuff or get more leads.
They want results.
And so Twitter historically has been one that, you can get great brand awareness from it, but driving outcomes hasn't been great. We're going to try beta testing it, as, the platform's, changing.
Yeah.
And kind of see what that leads to for the future.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm really excited about right now is video content. Video is like my second language, I guess. I've been creating videos for half my life. So what do you all think? And what are your customers? I know you work with a lot of B2B clients. Are they diving into video at all? Are they curious about short form, especially TikTok, Instagram Reels, any of that?
Certainly. I think video is becoming a bigger and bigger, part of advertising strategies. And we've focused a lot on investing in our design teams and motion graphic artists, and now into video production to be able to help our customers with their video efforts. But I think short form video, as you mentioned, is a huge part. Storytelling. I mean, consumers want to have that buy-in to the brand, and doing that through video format is a great way to tell your story, whether you're B2B or e-commerce, product-based. I think video is going to continue to be a big part of the market in your organic content strategies with Reels and TikTok, and but also with advertising. Video we see have high performance.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you feel on your side of things? I mean, you work with a lot of
small
businesses and freelancers. What's the take there?
For sure. I mean, I think platforms like TikTok are, I'd compare TikTok to being on YouTube in 2007. I just think there's a lot of possibilities, a lot of opportunity with that platform right now, and Reels as well. It's really opened up the ability to go viral or to actually gain a new audience, where for a while I think Instagram was really stagnant. It was hard to grow on that platform. So I think it's interesting. What I always warn people about is don't forget about long form. I think that having SEO rich content, whether that's a blog, whether that's a YouTube channel, a podcast, I think is still incredibly valuable, even though these short form platforms are really dominating.
Right.
And what's great about long form is that you can repurpose, and you can get, for this video that we're recording, I'm going to chop some of it up and put it on my Instagram.
Right.
So you can kind of do double duty that way as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of long form or content in general, why are you at C-Squared choosing to develop a podcast right now and lean into content marketing?
I mean, content is just so important. I mean, to tell the story, we were talking about this earlier, you have to find a way to connect with your audience. I think, and that's the reason that we're doing this podcast is, people these days, when it comes to consumers, they want to buy products or be a part of a service that they can, that they have a personal connection to or an emotional connection to. That's happening now more than ever. I mean, I think about just the stuff that I personally buy. It's usually a company that has great storytelling. And it's the same with my wife, and it's the same with everyone I know. We work with Kevin O'Leary. He's a brand ambassador for our company, and Shark Tank. So we deal with a lot of Shark Tank companies. And this is a good example, is in Shark Tank, when they air on an episode, their sales just go absolutely ballistic.
Yeah.
And it's not just because they, it's like a commercial.
Yeah.
I think if they ran a commercial, they wouldn't see anywhere near the success that they had. It's the fact that they get, 5 or 10 minutes to tell their story.
Yep.
It's the owners usually talking about why they created the product. They get a chance to say their background, and so by the time the Shark Tank episode is done, you want to jump online and purchase it because you have this emotional connection to the brand. That's why the sales go crazy. It's if they just ran a commercial on ABC, the outcome wouldn't nearly be the same thing.
Yep.
And so I think that's just an example of why content is so important. Is you can't just run an ad these days and expect that someone's just going to purchase it. You've got to tug at their heartstrings. You've got to connect with them emotionally and personally to get their buy-in to wanting to consume your product.
Yeah. And it establishes that brand loyalty.
Yeah.
And again, that storytelling, as Cassidy mentioned, I think is so critical to building a great brand and bringing value too. I know we've talked about this being an educational podcast, and two, content's a way to bring value to your consumers, to talk about the benefits of your product or benefits of the industry, or what you're doing differently, or it really is such a key part. And I think more and more consumers are doing that brand due diligence and wanting to really align and buy into the story of the products they're consuming or services that they're consuming. And so we've been telling our customers to really lean into it more heavily, and we're trying to do what we preach and do it for ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, I would challenge anybody, if they ran an ad, run one that is the founders talking about the company and why they created the product versus just one about the product.
Yeah.
And I bet you'll find that the storytelling one is substantially better.
100%. People
Yeah.
buy from people. That's
Yeah.
what I always say. People buy from people. And it's funny because I've been seeing the content creator role, like at agencies or in-house even, so much. Like people hiring a storyteller or
Yeah.
a content
Oh, it
creator, and I think it's a smart move, to have somebody, to be able to tell that story, whether it is the founder or whether it's somebody that you hire or work with.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I mean, you're an example of that. The content that you create is so good, and it brings people to you in droves. And so, I mean, I think that, again, just talking about like the consumer purchasing cycle, I think of like my wife will send me something on Instagram that's like, oh, I saw this, and then it'll be like you research it online, and then what do you know, you start to see the packaging show up in Target or whatever else.
Yep.
And it's this journey
Yep.
of consumption, and you have to have all of it. And I know it's a lot of work, and it can be a pain in the ass. And so a lot of businesses don't do it because they don't see the yields instantly.
Yeah.
And but it's a necessary evil. You just have to commit to doing it and take the time or hire the resources that
Yeah.
can help you achieve it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I wanted to ask, how do you help your clients kind of take advantage of some of these new trends, new technologies? Because it can be overwhelming, especially if you're a smaller business. It's like, okay, I got to be on TikTok now. I got to be on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, I know.
How do you sort of guide them and like prioritize the newness? I know we hear shiny object syndrome a lot in the marketing world. Like, how do you kind of prevent that or steer them in the right direction?
Certainly. I mean, we like to walk before we run. And when it comes to new products, we usually run a beta test program, a beta program with any new strategies or new platforms or new product types that we roll out. And our kind of internal development team spends a lot of time understanding the trends and where the marketplace is going. But end of day, we don't want to put our customers into something that's not going to work or drive the right results for them. And so, we really try to take our time to develop the products and understand and see what effects a new platform is having, and then being able to roll that out in a bigger scale to our client base and say, this is working. You should incorporate this into your strategies, and having our team of strategists kind of walk them through how does this play part of your kind of omni-channel approach, and showing that value to them in case studies or other work that we've done through our beta programs. But it can certainly be overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's moving so fast, and not every platform is going to work for every business type. It's different, but certainly is trying to keep our clients at the forefront of technology, but not just jumping into it and saying, like you said, shiny object syndrome of, this looks cool, let's just do it. If it doesn't have the yields for our clients, they're not going to be successful, and we're not going to be successful. And so I think it's just, try some things, see what works, and then keep scaling and find a way where you can kind of hit your saturation point, but turn up the dials a bit once you find it is working well.
Yeah.
And I'd say sticking with stuff too.
Yes.
You know, I think that's a big part of it is, we're guilty of that internally. I mean, I think every company is at some point is you try something and you only give it a couple of weeks or a month or two, and then you pull the plug on it because you don't feel like it moved the needle for you. And I think that some people just need to have a little bit of patience. I think if you know that look at companies that are super successful. If they're updating their Instagram, they're updating their TikTok, they're producing great content, you can assume that's probably something that you should be doing too. And I think it's just having a little bit of patience to do some of it. And I mean, for us, a lot of our customers, we encourage them to do it outside of us. We offer those solutions, but if they don't have those resources, we encourage them to say, just post on Reels. You'll see that the value is there right now. They're trying to compete with TikTok, and TikTok also has a lot of value. Just do these things.
Yeah.
You can carve the time out or have an employee that can do it on
Yep.
the spare time, and you'll see the value in the long run. But a lot of people bounce too quick from things. That's definitely a problem.
Yeah, that is hard. The consistency is hard, but it is so worth it. I always am very open about that. I would have never built the platform I did if I just was looking for instant success. I mean, I was talking to like 3 people for, the first several months. Like no one was really watching, but I'm really happy I stuck with it. And I also think measure what you're doing. Like when you're doing those tests, just jot it down on a napkin. I don't care, a spreadsheet, whatever. Pay attention to those KPIs so you know how things are actually performing against one another. Because sometimes when you actually look at the data, you'll be really surprised.
Yeah.
Very true. I mean, you should be making data-informed decisions with all your marketing efforts.
Yes.
And not just emotional decisions. And I don't think this is working, and so I'm going to jump to something else, or vice versa. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you a little fun question. Do you have any social media hot takes? I can go first to kind of explain. Mine is that actually businesses don't need to be on every single platform. I think that's something that kind of contributes to this overwhelm a lot of people are seeing, is they're like, well, I have to be on every single platform and do all the things all the time. And I think if people focus on 2 core platforms, that's usually what I teach people. Choose one that's maybe a little bit more SEO rich, and then one that's going to be more viral or help you distribute. That's what I always teach. And start with that. Obviously, then when you bring on a team, if you hire an agency or bring on an in-house team, then you can expand. Like you can do more. You have more resources and more time. But if you're just a solopreneur, a small business, start with 2 platforms and get really good at them.
I think that's good advice. What platforms do you push people towards for the 2?
I mean, it really depends on the industry. It depends on the company. If you're an educational company like myself, I think YouTube is still really powerful. And for short form, it can be Twitter, it could be Instagram. Just depends on who you're talking to. I think obviously for B2B, LinkedIn is really powerful. Twitter is really powerful, especially if they're doing a lot of events. So it really depends on the industry.
Yeah.
I would say, a hot take for me is email isn't dead. I think a lot of companies kind of see that email is a thing of the past, email marketing. And I think if done right, it can drive some of the large yields for customers. And it really is a bottom of funnel conversion tool that companies can use. For example, we had a client of ours that did kitchen remodeling, and they had an email list of 10,000, so it's a decent sized list, but not huge. And in the first month through their email workflow series, they produced $38,000 in return on investment. And so it certainly has still a lasting power and is something that should be a part of your strategies as a company. One note I would say is don't do purchase leads. I mean, I think a lot of people think I'm just going to shortcut my way to an email marketing campaign of I'm going to go buy lists and just go blast it out, and it's just spam, and that's not going to do, 1, good for your brand, but also 2, it's just not going to drive the same results. I think having email capture on your website, doing email capture campaigns to drive people there to provide their email address, or through customer purchases online or trade shows that you do. Keep just building those lists organically of companies that are interested in your products, and have a good series. Again, consistency is really important. Have really insightful information on that, very visually rich on those emails, it'll produce great yields.
Yeah, especially if you're investing in content, just throw your email list link in your description box, or develop some type of lead magnet for people to opt in, because you're
Absolutely.
getting in front of people, and
I'm
it's very
amazed.
valuable.
I mean, I personally don't really consume stuff off of emails.
Yeah.
But I'm blown away. It is definitely a consistent trend that email marketing, if you've been capturing email addresses, has huge value still, and that is kind of surprising to me, and it does work tremendously well. Yeah, let's see if I had a hot take. I think I would say leverage user-generated content in a big way. I know we talked about video formats, but I mean, a helpful tip to anyone is you can use platforms like Billo and others that you can hire creators that can make user-generated content for you at a pretty affordable price, and use that in your advertising. I think that goes over extremely well. And then if you are going to do the influencer piece, I would say it's kind of tapping into the micro-influencer component, where you don't have to think of influencers as I'm going to go get Kim Kardashian or someone like that to represent my brand. There's platforms out there like Find My Influence and others that have a lot of creators. You can go on there and essentially put together a brief, and you could, a lot of them you can even just offer product, and you'll get people that have 10, 15,000 followers that will do stuff for product. And again, it's just a great use of content, but those work incredibly well. So
Sometimes even the more micro-influencers drive better results too.
They've got a better following, or they're more
Yeah.
avid followers, or they're more believable when they talk about a
Yeah.
product.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think leveraging UGC and just the micro-influencer piece doesn't have to be like overwhelming where you're thinking, oh, a big influencer campaign. You can do it on your own. It's achievable.
Yeah, I think that unlocked a second hot take for me, which is bigger is not always better. In terms of influencer, even in terms of like email list size, sometimes having just a engaged audience is way more valuable than if you go out and buy 100,000 emails.
Absolutely.
Having 10,000 that are actually care about what you're
100%.
saying
100%,
is way more
yeah.
valuable. And if you look at those rates for influencers, micro influencers actually tend to have the highest engagement rates compared to like a celebrity or a huge influencer like a Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
No shade to her, but smaller.
Yeah.
I think smaller is better a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. That's just another great validator too, is having somebody else talk about your brand. And when you put together those briefs, again, I would encourage them to try to get the influencer excited about the brand and the story, and so they can articulate that to their audience. But I just think that that's a very simple way. If I was starting something and I had minimal amount of resources to invest in advertising and I wanted to move the needle, I would probably do the micro-influencer piece, get some UGC assets, and then try to advertise those. That's where I would start personally.
Yeah. Cool. I have one last question for you, but do you have anything for me, content-wise, that you want to pick my brain about?
Yeah, a lot, obviously, but
Where to start?
I think a big one for us, we work across the board when it comes to industries, but we have a lot of B2B customers. And one trend that we always see is when we push them to focus on content and to be active in the content space, there's definitely some resistance there as far as, but I'm B2B. Should I be posting anything on TikTok, or should I be leveraging Reels, or is that a waste of my time? I'd like to get your take on kind of what you would say to a B2B type concept when it comes to content.
Yeah, well, I think the thing, we talk about B2B as like this foreign concept sometimes. It's like this big scary term, but it's business to business, but who's running businesses? People, right? Like people are still behind those screens. We're not like selling to C-Squared, the entity. We're selling to you if somebody was pitching to you. So I think still tapping into that human emotion is a very valid thing. There are still humans behind these businesses. And like I said, people do buy from people, even if those people run businesses,
Right.
So I do think there is a lot of value in content. Now, I agree, you gotta test things. Don't just, abandon your existing advertising strategy or LinkedIn strategy or whatever just to go all in on TikTok. Of course, test things. But I think it is a really powerful time right now to carve out a little bit of time, a little bit of space to test some of those new formats. And I also think it's a good opportunity to be one of few right now, which is rare. Again, Facebook, super saturated. Instagram, super saturated. TikTok, especially in B2B, not very saturated yet,
Right.
so you can be an early adopter. And I think TikTok is here to stay, or at least that format, short form vertical video content, YouTube Shorts, all of that. Whatever you choose to do, eventually it will get to a point where it's like Facebook or it's like Instagram, and there will be B2B businesses on there, so why not be an early adopter?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
No, I agree with that. I mean, we saw that in the early days of Facebook when they just monetized. Everyone was very hesitant to jump on there, especially brands that maybe their consumer was a bit of an older generation. They felt it's just kids. And when you have several billion users, your audience is on there. And like you said, I mean, not a lot of companies were doing it, so it was a bit of the Wild West, and it's your chance to be, at the forefront and really capitalize on that, because that's not always going to be evergreen. And sometimes the early phases of a new platform is the chance that you can really get some of the best results.
Yeah. And it's not just kids anymore. And believe me, I was saying that. I was like, I don't want to do TikTok. Do I really have to do this? But it's not. That platform is getting older, if you will. Like more and more people are joining every day, and there definitely is an audience for most every demographic, age group, whatever on there. So.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely was just like Facebook. We did a lot of franchise development, and that's, these franchisors that are trying to sell locations, the investment on some of these could be $1 million. So they're worried that, that person is not on Facebook when we were doing Facebook.
Yeah.
So when they finally were willing to do it, they would chip off like 1% of their budget, and then maybe 2% of their budget. And then it just, over time, they realized that's where people are, that's where I can get my best engagement, that's where I can get my most affordable cost per lead.
Yeah.
And yeah, it totally transformed over the years. But I feel the same thing with TikTok. I'm now the older person looking in at TikTok and being like, oh no, another platform to learn. But the reality is it will be here to stay probably, and the audience will be there. And so just like you said, you might as well be an early adopter because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and you know what else too is if you choose to advertise, even if you're not gonna have an organic, TikTok following necessarily, if you want to run ads, I think especially for TikTok, you have to be creating, you have to be really creative with your ads. You can't just post like a graphic on TikTok
Totally.
that doesn't work. You still need to craft those ads that are very storytelling focused.
For sure.
So you have to learn it. You have to learn some aspect of that creation.
Oh, I definitely agree.
Because I think on TikTok, like the ad fatigue there is like, in reality, it's like 5 days.
Oh,
so, I mean, and you have to do UGC, so, kind of going back to that piece.
Yeah.
Use user-generated content as your TikTok assets. Never use graphics, it just does not work, never. And you have to have a lot of content because it fatigues after about 5 days, where a lot of platforms you can, you've got some messaging that's got, it can last a quarter or 6 months, and very different, Very different.
Another question we get a lot from our clients is, how often should they be posting on for their organic content strategies across all these platforms? What advice would you give to these businesses?
Yeah, again, it depends, which I know is not a satisfying answer. I always say honestly, the best marketing answers are usually it depends. It does, it depends on the platform. I think, long form, like YouTube, blogging, I think you can go way less frequent. You can post once a week, twice a week, and see some good results after, a few months or whatnot of that consistency. Short form, if we're talking TikTok, Twitter, those are platforms that move really quickly. So, you should be posting a lot on those platforms. I've actually just been doing a test on TikTok of posting daily on TikTok, which has been a little bit challenging for myself, but I will say they really reward that consistency on that platform. Prior to that, I was posting just twice a week, posting clips of my podcast and things like that. Wasn't really seeing movement. The growth, the comments, everything really amplified when I started posting daily. So if you have the resources to do that, then do that. But I'll also say, no matter what platform, quality does still trump quantity, I think, for most platforms. Now, we have kind of shifted a little bit. I mean, years ago, I would say definitely quality over quantity. I think we are leaning a little bit more on that quantity side, but I still do think if you're just putting up junk, that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
So if you can invest in one piece of content a week, I'm going to tell you to do that versus just, posting garbage every single day. So find that happy medium, bring in help if you need to and if you can afford to, but if you're really bootstrapping, just start with once a week, twice a week, like whatever you can really commit to.
Yeah.
Do you think the quality of the content itself, what you're talking about, trumps the video production quality that people have? Because I know a lot of our customers too saying, I just need to shoot this on my iPhone real quick. I don't have someone in-house to be able to do video with fancy equipment.
Yep.
But I feel that if the quality of the content itself, what you're putting out there, not necessarily the video production, hopefully it can be good, but it's important, like you said, you just don't want to be putting out, garbage information. It just doesn't really bring value to your audience.
That's a really good question. I think that content, above all, first of all, our iPhones are so powerful. Our iPhones are like better
but yet
quality
I still
cameras.
get blurry photos all the time.
I know.
I must be the worst.
Yeah, I'm still learning too, because I feel like I cannot take a selfie to save my life. But they are really good cameras, better than most consumer grade cameras 5-10 years ago. Yeah. So if you have an iPhone, you're good. I promise. I think if you're going to focus on one area of production, I think it's actually audio. People will forgive like mediocre video quality. But if they can't hear you, they'll tune out. So the good thing is you can get a really cheap microphone for your iPhone and call it a day.
Yeah.
So I do. I think that I've watched so many YouTube videos that are literally like Zoom calls. They're like webinars of just people's webcams. They're grainy. But if the content is good, you're going to stick around for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's kind of been Barstool Sports' thing. They just produce a lot of content. It's not like you said, it has to be something that's entertaining or enjoyable for their brand especially, but they produce a ton of content. And I think that is one thing to be learned from people is, you produce a lot of it. I mean, you want to keep hitting your consumers with a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And, as long as it's not like terrible info,
yeah.
like you said, if it's shot from a phone and whatnot, then I think that it is better to just have more stuff. People love consuming. They consume a lot.
Yes.
So
for sure.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, a lot of my audience, they are early stage entrepreneurs, maybe they're freelancers, they're looking to build something like this. Like if you had to give a couple pieces of advice for new entrepreneurs, new business owners, if they want to get to where you are.
Certainly.
Do you have any wise words for them?
I think the advice I would give to new entrepreneurs is, number one, you need a product people want or a service. I mean, product quality is really important. I think that's the core principle of starting any business. You need to be bringing value to your consumer, whether it's a product or a service or, educational information. Focus on product quality, and that goes a long way. And then I think just perseverance is really important. It's not easy to be an entrepreneur, and the entrepreneurial journey is not for the faint of heart. And there's a lot of ups and downs, and more downs than ups in a lot of cases. And so you just need to stay in the game and be resilient and go through it. Advice that we got from our dad when we were starting this business was, you just got to stay in the game. The day that you stop is the day you fail, and you're for sure not going to make it. So you just got to keep going, and eventually, you'll get your break and you'll be able to get through it. And so it's very rewarding, very challenging. Have a great product that's bringing value to your consumers, and just keep driving. Have conviction for what you're doing, and have perseverance to get through it.
Yeah, I agree with the longevity piece. I think everyone thinks that it could be a fast path to success, and they have to change their mindset to it is a long path to success, a very long one. Even if you're going fast, you could have incredible growth rate, and you'll still be surprised that it takes a lot of years before you feel like you're successful.
Yeah.
So that's why you should really do something that you love, because you're going to be stuck doing it for a long time. And so that would be a big part of it too, is do something that you're into, because if you sit around all day just thinking about how successful I am, you're going to get burned out really, really quick. And so I think that's important. The other thing too is, we talk with a lot of businesses, and a lot of those are startups. A lot of them are, right at the concept idea. I know you talk with them too. So I'm curious about your advice. But I think sometimes we deal with people that are shooting almost too high, where it's like it's going to be such a rough path to get to pull it off, that sometimes for like a brand new entrepreneur is start small. You know, if you can create something that you can sell to your parents, to your family members, to your friends, and then to your community, that's a good way to start and see if there's an appetite for it. But sometimes we deal with people that, oh, I'm going to create this app that is going to totally revolutionize distribution centers and everything else. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you better have a lot of money at your back, you know, to pull some of that stuff off, or you know, resources outside of that. So if you want to not, you know, don't get overwhelmed to the point where, you know, take stair steps to get there. Start small and get those wins under your belt, and then start taking the next steps of developing out things that are more extreme. So yeah, I mean, what about you?
I mean, I think both of you took the words out of my mouth. Honestly, longevity, sticking with it. I think just playing the long game. You know, it's not a get rich quick thing. It is not. Like, it's absolutely not. It's a long game, and you have to love the game too. And I think if you don't, that's okay. Not everybody's like, I think, you know, it's a special type of person who is an entrepreneur. I think maybe we're a little bit out of our minds, a little bit. So that's okay if that's not you. You do have to enjoy the journey. You know, it's not about like getting to that, because once you hit those milestones, once you hit those like big wins, they feel good. But that's not every single day. Like, you have to enjoy the daily grind, I guess, or the day-to-day life that you're building. So I think that's really important, to do something that you love. So find that aspect of marketing or whatever it is that you love. Maybe you love creating content. Maybe you love talking with the customers. Maybe you love doing the admin side. Whatever it is, find what it is that you truly love, that you'll be comfortable doing every day. And I also think, I like that you mentioned slow growth, or like intentional growth. You know, there's a book called The Minimalist Entrepreneur that I always recommend to people. And he really talks about just building a very lean business in the beginning, at least. You know, I'm sure when you all started, you didn't have this big, beautiful office, right? Like, you have to work your way up so that you don't spend all your money and are not able to fund your business. Because at the end of the day, you know, that's what separates a business from a hobby, is that you're actually generating revenue from it. So don't spend all your money on the flashy things just to look like a cool entrepreneur.
And if you have more intentional growth, your mistakes can be a bit smaller. Or if you're not going crazy, that could be it. You're out of business. If you're trying to go too fast, and those can be very costly mistakes, because failures, it's going to happen. And you shouldn't be too concerned by failure. Just fail fast. Just figure out what you did wrong and not do it again. But it certainly was. I mean, for us starting it, our capitals, we sold our cars and split a car for the first 3 years. Riding together, and
hired a buddy of mine, was the first employee in, and we bootstrapped it. I mean, this company, we've never taken outside money.
Nice.
It's been grown on cash flow, and to get to this point, I know it's been 10 years, that's a decent amount of time, but it went. I mean, we're fortunate to be as big as we are, because we took every dollar that this company generated for the longest time and reinvested back into the business, and we still do.
Still doing that today.
So, you know, it takes reinvestment into the business, but it was good that we started small, because we made a lot of mistakes along the way that could have been, you know, detrimental if it was like you just raised money and then tried to, not that we could have raised money to save our lives, but you could have made some big mistakes, but it was good that you got some of the learnings as you went along the way. And it was, I know we talked about this in the early part of the podcast, but neither of us had a marketing background. We just kind of knew what we wanted as a customer. And so we did a lot of things that I think an outside advisor from like a financial standpoint would be like, that's stupid, you shouldn't have done that. And I'm glad we did a lot of those things, because I think we've positioned the company to be a lot more nimble with a lot more upside opportunity, but it was a hard path to do it. Because we just kind of built it the way that we want. And that's another thing too that I think for entrepreneurs to keep an eye on is, if you get too much advice on the outside of telling you to shape your business a certain way, you'll never really get to put your stamp on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do something different, have some conviction for it, and keep pursuing that, because I think that it's easy to say, okay, I'm just going to operate just like everyone else does, and then you end up with just the same thing that everyone else has.
Yeah, love it. Cool. Well, that's all I have for you. We'll see you all on the C Squared social channel next week. We'll be doing weekly videos over there. I'll be posting some of the content on my channel as well as on socials and all of that, but this was fun.
We're really excited. Yeah, we're excited about the partnership. You're obviously a rock star. Everyone that knows you knows that you bring a lot of value and education, and anyone in the marketing space is aware of you. And so we've seen your stuff for a long time now, and we're excited to kind of team up together and join forces and really bring some great value to the listeners. So thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Us too.
See
Thanks,
ya.
Gwen.